Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your Saturday and a fantastic start to your weekend. I got you some updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise to kickstart your weekend. We'll speak on a couple things out there. Really, the most, I would say, interesting thing in today's weather is this system flying through the Ohio Valley. This could create some weird weather across like the Carolinas later on this afternoon. We'll talk about what I mean as in weird here in a second when we get to that southeast frame. But all in all, it's going to be a pretty quiet day for most of the lower 48. But of course, we'll break down everybody's weather in the entire lower 48. After we do that, we will switch gears and give you some updated information on this storm system we've been watching over the last several days for next week. Confidence is pretty much increased that we are going to have some sort of big weather maker that's going to move into the western U.S., into the central portion of the country. What's going to happen in the eastern U.S., that's a little bit more fuzzy, but there's some differences between the Euro and the GFS model between how this unfolds as it gets into the eastern U.S. Can we have like an antifront type setup with, cold air chasing moisture, maybe a little back end snow in certain areas of the eastern U.S.? And then the Euro really doesn't show that, so there is some question marks, especially for the eastern U.S. But we're going to try to figure that out. There is another system we are watching as we get to the very beginning of March, which isn't too far ahead of us, but we're not going to get very detailed on that. But as we get a little bit deeper into next week, we will start to talk about kind of both systems. The one we're going to be dealing with, of course, next week, and then another one after that as we get into the first couple of days of March. So I do think we got some active times ahead, that's for sure. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I'm asking for prayers for myself today. If you guys don't know, I coach soccer, as you can tell. I got my white jersey on. I coach U9 soccer. It's my third season doing it, and this is our first game of the season. So just asking for prayers it goes well and all those good things. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I just love hanging out with the kids. So just asking for prayers for that. But definitely, if you guys got any prayer requests, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we take a look at the lower 48 as far as the entire radar. We got a lot of rain up in Nova Scotia. This is mainly rain, a little bit of snow in New Brunswick. But as far as the lower 48, the U.S., we do have some snow flying around Ohio. Let me know what you're seeing right now, what you've seen overnight across areas of the Ohio Valley, what you saw last night around Illinois, the Chicago region, Indianapolis, and things like that. This is falling mainly in the form of rain in areas of like the Mid-South, the Appalachian Mountains as of now, but it's already probably starting to snow in really higher elevations of like the southern Apps, like North Carolina, Tennessee, and I think some snow will begin to fall later on this morning, if it isn't already by the time some of you folks are watching this video in like West Virginia, things like that. So what's going to be interesting is what happens as this moisture kind of crosses the Appalachian Mountains and gets east of the Apps. Could do some weird stuff. Weird as in we could have some showers and storms, but even showers that could easily produce hail for this afternoon. We had that in South Carolina yesterday. I had a hailstorm here at my house locally, just very small hail, like the size of peas. But it was very wonky weather. It actually delayed a baseball game here locally in the central South Carolina area. It could be a day like that again in Virginia and the Carolinas. So we'll speak heavily on that when we get to the southeast frame here in a couple minutes. The central area of the country, very quiet. And then the western U.S. is pretty quiet for the most part. Now, enjoy your quiet day you'll get again today, because things are going to get much more active as we get to the tail end of the weekend into early next week. Storm Prediction Center, just a general risk of thunderstorms. I'm kind of surprised this isn't extending a little bit into Virginia. We might get a bump up to a marginal risk, but in general, it's not going to be as much of a thunderstorm element in today's kind of event. If you compare it to yesterday, where I'm not saying we're not going to see lightning and thunder and all of that today, but I think today it's more of a kind of a cold air driven kind of setup. But, you just have that very small area of general risk of thunderstorms in North Carolina and South Carolina, almost all of the Carolinas. Like I said, just a weird day. These storms will easily produce hail, easily. So just a lot of cold air aloft moving in. So we'll speak more on that here in a second, but the rest of the country pretty quiet as far as storms. Excessive rainfall outlook is below, 5%, so the risk of flooding is below 5%, so it's not going to show up on this map. Don't have to really worry about that today. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have red flag warnings up in Alabama and Georgia, where it's getting not necessarily dry, but there's a really dry air mass kind of moving in, settling in. So, just be careful out there with burning things. There might be some burn bans up. I'm not even sure. But wind advisories are up for North Georgia and Central Georgia. Very windy conditions. And we do have the winter weather advisories up in the higher elevations of the southern apps. And then we still have the ongoing winter weather advisories for what's going on right now in Ohio. And then we got some red flag warnings in this hot pink, dark pink kind of color right here in the central U.S. And look at all these warnings in the northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. This is for what's to come as we're getting into the tail end of this week and really into early next week. So we already got high wind watches in the brown colors. The more of the mustard kind of yellowish colors right here, that is high wind warnings already up. And then the teal color, the bluish color, that is winter storm watches. So it's coming. Things are about to get quite active out here. So, enjoy your day out and about, whatever you got going on for your Saturday out west, because things are going to get much more active. But let's talk about the Southeast and this kind of weird weather day I'm expecting for especially North Carolina today, areas of Virginia, even the northern section of South Carolina. So we'll start off this morning. We already got some moisture beginning to dive down into the southern Alps region. I think some snow will begin to fall in the higher elevations. You'll probably have to get about 3,000 to 4,000 feet up. But I'm not saying that we won't get some sleet, some grapple, which is kind of a mixture between sleet and snow. The mixes even in those lower elevations like Asheville, things like that. But not a huge snow event. You really got to get on up there in elevation. But, if you want to take a quick trip to the mountains today, you want to see some snow, I'm sure they're not going to close close things and stuff like that, especially like roadways and things like that. I'm sure you'll be able to climb up there a little bit in higher elevation. So take the kids up there. I would probably do that honestly today if I didn't have soccer games. But anyway, some things are more important than snow. But as we were getting into about midday, even some of these showers, or heavier bursts of precipitation in the mountains could produce some thunder snow in those higher elevations of the mountains. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. You see the snow flying around in West Virginia. And this is when the energy could break loose east of the Appalachian Mountains. You see these kind of splotches right here, and yellows and oranges and reds. This is when we can get, I don't want to call them hailstorms, but showers and thunder showers, maybe some storms that could produce a lot of small hail. So let's just go on and zoom into this area. Well, let's just go on and kind of make our way through the entirety of the run here. I think by the time we get into the overnight hours, this is done. I do want to watch this little precipitation right in here in northern North Carolina, southern Virginia. Who knows? Maybe this could produce some wet snowflakes if you happen to be the night owl and staying up really late north of Raleigh, around Danville, Virginia. Who knows? Maybe that can produce some snow flurries. We'll see what happens here. But a little bit closer at the Carolinas, Virginia, surrounding areas. Here comes this energy, right? Some bursts of snow in the mountains. Could, put down a quick few inches of wet snow. And this will be ongoing throughout most of the first half of the day. And then we start to get, this is, for example, let's back it up to about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You see these areas in like yellows and oranges and reds. Any of these showers you see in here, they might be in the form of storms, might be producing some thunders, flash of lightning. Like I said, a lot of cold air aloft is diving in from this deep digging, quick moving, trough that's diving in, bringing a lot of cold air aloft at first, and then eventually it comes to the surface. But, the surface doesn't catch up with what's going on in the upper levels of the atmosphere until, several hours down the road. That's typically how it works. The cold air moves in the upper levels of the atmosphere first, typically, unless you have a true Arctic air mass where the Arctic air kind of settles in and is very shallow. But in this case, a lot of cold air aloft comes in first. This kind of overcuts this precipitation at the surface. Hail is easily obtained. So it's a lot colder in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The temperatures are below freezing, not that far up above our heads in this setup. So, some of this precipitation is ice. It falls down, doesn't really have a whole lot of time to melt, and then you get hail. So listen, these will kind of fly through areas of North Carolina, Virginia up here. Could get some heavier bursts of snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia and Virginia. Still snowing up in the mountains of North Carolina and in Tennessee, even in Virginia, even near Beckley, West Virginia, very possible. Maybe some of the higher mountaintops of eastern Kentucky. But I'm telling you, don't let this catch you off surprise later on this afternoon in North Carolina. These little boogers can produce a lot of hail. I could see us seeing some crazy videos and photos on social media today in North Carolina, maybe even like the PD of South Carolina, upstate of South Carolina. Virginia, of all of a sudden, us seeing pictures of like hail covering the ground. I could see this being a setup like this today. So don't let this catch you by surprise at all. But these will swing through. And like I said, by the time we get into the overnight hours, it's about done. Snow will add up in the Smokies. Could get a few to maybe several inches of snow if you get like 5,500 to 6,000 feet up. Roan Mountain will probably get a couple inches of snow from this. But you got to get on up there in higher elevations. This is not one of those widespread kind of mid-level, low-level kind of elevation regions in North Carolina. It's been a pretty pathetic winter for Asheville for the second winter in a row, places like that. So, this is not going to be an event for you guys. I could see, you guys getting a burst of snow, very possible, but not likely with accumulations. But we're seeing the snow flying around Ohio this morning. This will continue. This snow will drift into West Virginia. Could get a little snow south of Pittsburgh into the southwest section of PA. Snow will kind of linger into southeast Ohio through about midday, then it'll clear out, and then the snow starts flying around the higher elevations of West Virginia. But even in the lower elevations, we'll see a little snow from this too. And then this energy will dive down, and then the weather will get kind of weird in Virginia later this afternoon, this evening. But the rest of the Northeast, cold, dry air dominating the pattern, very stable conditions. But it'll be a cold day, guys. It really will. We'll talk about temperatures here in a second. But snowfall, it's already falling in Ohio right now. Still a little snow flying back here in Indiana. But get a little bit more adjusted there. But, could get a couple inches of snow in kind of the western panhandle of West Virginia. A little bit of snow, maybe around Morgantown. It's very possible. Could get maybe an inch, very possible. Charleston, they're not really calling for any accumulating snow, but those higher elevations could get a 1 to 3 inches of kind of a slushy wet snow. It's very possible in this area. South Central U.S., this is when it gets pretty quiet. We're getting into about midday, afternoon, evening hours, overnight hours, all the way into our Sunday morning. It's quiet weather. There's nothing really to speak on. Enjoy your day. You've had some really warm weather over the last several days, and today won't be much different compared to all them other days. Very quiet weather. Enjoy your day. North Central U.S., it's pretty quiet also. We'll watch a little energy that flies in out of Canada. Could produce some showers in North Dakota. It's still well above average, and then a little cold air dives in, and then another area of moisture moves in. I'm talking like well after midnight tonight. Kind of dives into the picture right here. A little bit of light to moderate snow flies into western and central North Dakota. By the time we're waking up for a Sunday morning, could be some snow flying around in southern areas of North Dakota. And if we kind of keep this going all the way and deeper into our Sunday morning, could get some snow flying around the heart of Minnesota. This eventually tries to reach northern Wisconsin later tomorrow afternoon in the form of maybe some light snow and some flurries, but we'll stop it right there. Between now and Sunday evening, just a few tenths of an inch of snow. Not much from this at all, so just enough to maybe put a dusting in certain areas. So, Western U.S., it's a quiet day today, starting it off this morning. A little bit of moisture in the Pacific Northwest. As we're getting into the afternoon hour to the evening hour, some snow will begin to make its way into northern Montana. This is sort of the early extension of this snow that eventually moves to North Dakota that we just talked about. A little bit of snow up here in northern and basically anywhere in northern Montana could see a little snow today. But I do think you'll get a period of light to moderate snow in northeast sections of Montana after midnight tonight or around midnight points later into the night. And then we start to just see increased precipitation kind of up here in Canada and northern areas of Idaho and northwest Montana. More snow is falling in the northern Cascades here in Washington State. We even got some moisture beginning to show up off the coast of California. Still not a super active day tomorrow, but it's more active compared to today. So we'll get you some more information on this in the coming videos. Snowfall just between now and tomorrow morning. Several inches of snow could add up in the Rockies of western Montana. Lower elevations, you're not going to get much from this. This is pretty much the higher elevation squeezing out all the moisture. Some higher elevations in Idaho could get a little bit of snow too, but not much over the next 24 hours. It really has a chance to add up after this. So temperatures today, man, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, right, to kind of know where the cold air is and where the trough is. You can see where the trough is digging down right into here and the cold air associated with it. This quick shot of pretty cold air for late February standards. Nothing too crazy, but it's pretty cold. You might not get out the single digits for highs. I mean, those higher elevations in interior New England It's going to be a very, very cold day. A nice day, but a very, very cold day. Certainly cold. I think Boston won't get above freezing. It'll be very cold in New York City, but once you get away from the coastline, very quickly drops below freezing. So higher elevations of the central and southern Alps, a very cold day too. But once you start to get into the deep south, you start to get, where, it's a little bit warmer before kind of a a cold front dips down very quickly. But check out this gradient, in the Midwest. One side of, Iowa's not going to get out in the 40s, maybe 30s. The other side of Iowa might hit about 60 degrees. And that is because this air mass is displaced really just to the eastern U.S. In the central U.S., you still got a ridge influencing the pattern. So 60s and 70s for highs. Areas in Louisiana, well, probably not Louisiana, but areas of Texas will probably hit 80 again today. And then out west, it's well above average. This will change over the next couple of days. Enjoy your warmer than average temperatures. Pretty much everybody, whatever your average temperature is for this time of the year. I don't pretend to know every single microclimate out here. Just going to bed, it's going to be a little bit above average out here. Just about 95% of the western U.S. is above average today, temperature-wise. We take a look at what's to come, and we'll start off for our Monday morning, February the 26th, last Monday of February. It's crazy. We're about to be in March. I'll say it's crazy, but honestly, the first 2 months of the year, for me at least, hasn't really flown by. It seems like January was around forever. So it's one of those rare times where you can say, at least in my opinion, that time isn't going by super fast. So that's good. But we start off our Monday morning. There's a trough digging down into the western U.S. The boundary of this trough is still like in the Rockies. So first low misses pretty much a low of 48. Brings snow up here to Canada. There's going to be multiple lows that kind of fly at the base of this trough as this trough continues to dig south. Okay, there goes that first low, kind of cruising across into Canada, not really bringing any weather to the low of 48. Here comes another low as this cold air mass with associated cold fronts digging down. Here comes another low right in here, 990 millibar low. This could bring a period of snow sometime Monday night into Tuesday morning of next week across the northern plains into the upper Midwest. There it kind of goes, cruising. Here comes another low. And this 991 low right in here, and we'll kind of back it up for our Tuesday morning. 992 low, we don't know if that's the exact strength of this thing, but this is bringing some heavy snow across the central Rockies. You still have this stripe of snow most likely across the northern plains because you almost have an attachment between the precipitation from this low and this low. But here comes this low kind of cruising across the middle of the country. This low right in here is going to bring winds out the south, basically. And then it's going to bring an advection of moist air pretty far north. And you mix that with the mid-level jet that this surface low is going to be associated with, or vice versa, and you're going to have the ingredients for severe weather. Most likely, and I know you don't really see it, but as we are getting into our Tuesday afternoon, there's probably going to be storms in here where you don't really see anything. You see a little green right here, but this is just a global models. With the global models, when we're trying to figure out a severe weather threat, we just kind of look at the placement of the lows. We got to get in the short range models before we really figure out the true evolution of these storms, but we can get a good idea. 989 millibar low, cruising across basically the Midwest somewhere. Precipitation on the north side, this will be in the form of snow because there is some cold air diving down. Could we get a winter storm in Minneapolis? It's very possible. The latest Euro shows, a little bit of snow. And this low continues just to cruise into Illinois, start to make its way into the Great Lakes region. This is probably bringing some sort of severe weather somewhere. Okay, and then this low kind of gets into Michigan, and it wants to bring sometime next Tuesday night, Wednesday, give or take 6 or 12 hours, some winter weather into areas of the Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest. It does show some ice, so something we need to watch out for our friends up here in the UP of Michigan, things like that. Then you see an additional low, right? Kind of cruising, but at the same time, the advancement of this cold front is moving pretty fast. So if it moves too fast, it doesn't matter where a low forms, you're not going to get much of a severe weather threat because this cold front and this cold air associated with it, stable air, stabilizing the atmosphere very fast. But this low continues to cruise. Like I said, we got to watch for a significant winter weather event for the Great Lakes. We're getting into Wednesday morning. Another low right into here. This is potentially bringing a big winter storm for Canada. Okay, and we kind of keep on moving. Cold front's moving in fast. You see the blue lines right here, that 540 line. Cold front's moving in pretty fast, but we stop it here. It's about midday Wednesday. We still got a low pressure cruising here. This could be bringing, we could be waking up to some strong to severe storms Wednesday morning. somewhere across the Mid-South. And there's a 15% risk that's really shrunk for Wednesday, but still there for Wednesday across areas of the Mid-South. It makes sense with the placement of this low on the euro too. But here comes this low. It begins to deepen over the northeast, and then we start to get some rain changing to snow and maybe somewhere in the northeast, mid-Atlantic. And then we get into our Wednesday evening, and then this is cruising on off, and then we're done with it. We got to watch another low right down to here. It's trying to bring some snow to western Texas, but we won't talk much on that. This is kind of an area of interest between our big storm system and another one that's going to enter the picture as we get into the last day of February. You can already see another system entering your picture right here out west as we're leaving February and greeting March. So GFS, I'm showing you the GFS. I was thinking about just showing you the euro, but I want to show you the GFS too. Same kind of deal, right? And low right in here flies through Tuesday morning. This is heading on off, brings a stripe of snow somewhere in the northern section of the lower 48. And then here comes our next low right in here. Okay, this is probably going to bring a little precipitation on the north side, maybe a lot. But this low right in here is bringing the ingredients for severe weather to the south. And then another low is trying to form right down here. This low heads on off, potentially brings a winter weather event. It's kind of the same thing. If you compare this with the euro, both model runs are kind of bringing winter weather for areas of Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan, something to watch. And then here comes another low, kind of cruising across areas of Missouri and Arkansas. And it's interesting with this because the euro doesn't show it. But this has a 1,002 millibar low tucking in a little bit further west. It doesn't. The GFS and the euro still don't agree with the progression of this cold front. The euro brings this cold front and basically cold air surging east a lot faster. The GFS holds it back a little bit longer. So therefore, on the euro, you have this low kind of cutting across this area. On the GFS, it's cutting across the Ohio Valley. This catches the cold air up with it. Then we get some winter weather potential, just one model run, for areas of the Midwest and maybe into lower Michigan. But watch what happens after this. Maybe an additional low tries to form down here as we're getting into Wednesday evening. Cold air starting to catch up with this. And then all of a sudden, we get kind of an antifront type look. If you're wondering, Mitch, what is an antifront? An antifront is basically, just think of this as more of a frontal system where precipitation is there. Cold air is catching up with the precipitation. Therefore, you have a rain changing to snow kind of event, which typically favors areas west of the Appalachian Mountains. Typically, cold air chasing precipitation events does not work out east of the Alps very well. So this is something to watch out for areas as far south as Tennessee. Again, I know. My folks in the Carolinas are like, "Are you kidding me?" To me, mentally, I'm past winter, guys. I'm over crying about it. It is what it is. I'm kind of in the spring mindset now. But, the GFS does show an interesting scenario where you got precipitation in the western U.S., cold air is catching up, and then we got snow flying around in the central and southern Alps. So it is something to watch for. And then that heads on off. The snow signal with this is the European ensemble between now and Wednesday evening. Shows a lot of higher elevation areas getting snow. We do need to watch some of the lower elevation areas like Salt Lake City, Denver, any other towns in kind of the valley regions that typically don't always hit with the snow with these types of setups. Could be a little bit more cold air associated with this. Could get a little bit of snow. I think the snow levels will be a little bit lower compared to the last couple systems out west. So we will watch this. And then we move into the central areas of the country, and there's that signal right there. You see how it gets going? But see how it's the highest in the Great Lakes region, the UP of Michigan. It really increases about midweek, even northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota. Solid signal for some sort of winter weather into here. But kind of in the middle, it's a lot more muted. But I do think we'll get some winter weather somewhere in Nebraska, western areas of Minnesota, South Dakota for sure, even Iowa. It's very possible. Heck, maybe even down into Kansas. It's very, very possible. Between all the low pressures that are going to be flying at the base of this trough. The severe weather, we know that Tuesday is probably going to be the bigger threat. You got a pretty long, broad 15% threat of severe weather. This means there's a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather at day 4 now. So this is for Tuesday. It means there's a 15% chance of severe weather. We don't know what's going to be the highest threat. We just don't know that. It could be damaging winds, could be tornadoes, could be both. I'm sure there'll be a threat of hail. So we have that, and then we have day 5, which is for Wednesday. This is really, really shrunk now, and I think it's a good thing that it has because I really think that Wednesday is not going to be as intense as Tuesday, but we'll see. But I like the placement of this. I think you'll have it'll either be your third or fourth surface low that'll fly at the base of this trough. This is going to promote, I really think, especially Wednesday morning, kind of the first half of the day, a threat of severe weather. But the timing of the day could change. But this includes northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, the heart of Tennessee, all the way through the northern sections of Kentucky. And really, you look at the ingredients of this. We've talked about this many times. You compare kinematics with thermodynamics. So kinematics is your favorable wind energy aloft in the atmosphere. Upper levels of the atmosphere, middle levels of the atmosphere, and even you can throw in the surface levels. The thermodynamics is your moisture levels. How high are your dew points? Your surface temperatures, right? How high are your temperatures? Your CAPE levels in response to your higher moisture levels. Your lapse rates, which basically means how cold does it get the further up you get in the atmosphere and how fast. Like if you go from the surface, like it's 80 degrees and all of a sudden you get, 10,000 feet up and it's much, much colder, then your lapse rates might be more supportive. We'll focus on what we know. And we know is as we're getting into Tuesday morning, a trough is going to dive down with an associated mid-level jet, and a surface low will enhance this. And as we are getting into Tuesday afternoon, we have some sort of surface low into this region right into here with basically a mid-level jet down here. Mid-level jet meaning winds at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. And this is going at about 80, 90, 95 knots. So this is providing lift for thunderstorms and wind energy for thunderstorms. So, obviously these are winds way up in the atmosphere, but some of this will mix to the surface, not in the form of 80 to 90 knot winds. But you will certainly have wind energy supportive for these strong to severe storms and just storms in general. And this continues, and we start to get into our Wednesday. And this is what I'm interested in. And this is the European. This is Wednesday morning. Notice this begins to increase. But on the Euro, this is catching up very fast. But you're waking up to a lot of wind energy in the Midwest and also in areas of the Mid-South. And this continues, and it really increases as we are getting into midday Wednesday. But is the cold front already cleared this area? Because if it has, this is just a lot of winds. If you got dew points like in the 40s and lower, you're probably not going to get any severe weather with this. Just a very windy day. But that might not be the case, okay? And then we look at dew points. These are your thermodynamics, right? Where are the best overlapping of ingredients? And already already as you're kind of ending your day this coming Monday, you already got a pool of moist air building up. This is getting surged in from the south, getting pulled northward because of these lows and this trough ejecting and moving across the country with associated low pressures that are basically pulling in these southerly winds, yanking this moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico and just south in general. So we continue to move into our Tuesday morning. Moisture is already building into the Midwest in the form of dew points in the 50s. And then we get to about midday Tuesday. Look at this, very dry air. These are not temperatures, these are dew points. Look at this dry air. You got dews that are below zero. So this is crashing right up against this more moist air. So about midday Tuesday, we're getting dew points in the low 60s in Illinois. You combine that with what already is a pretty favorable kinematic atmosphere environment, and you're going to have severe weather. Now, as we start to get into tomorrow, probably more than likely, we'll start to look at that low-level jet, which are winds about a mile above our heads at the surface. You really look at that when you're really comparing this kind of setup. You're still at that range where you just look at that mid-level jet, not that low-level jet. But you see, you got this area here and this area here. I think there almost will be two areas, almost a bimodal kind of mode out there. But we'll see. We'll see if that's actually going to be the case. But you're going to have your better thermodynamics down here, your better moisture in Arkansas, better kinematics, maybe a little bit displaced north. But we'll see how that works out. And we get into our Wednesday. You can see where the cold front is, right? Doesn't take a rocket scientist. Dew points in the 20s in Dallas. Dew points in central Louisiana are in the 60s. But the air mass is really moving, stabilizing. Therefore, I think that if anything, you're going to wake up to a line of moving storms associated along this cold front throughout the Mid-South somewhere right in here. I think Tuesday will be the bigger threat. I do. And you look in response to that low-level moisture, you look at the Cape, which I haven't showed you much of this, but we start to get into Tuesday afternoon. This is Cape levels. It's kind of like two areas, right? You got Cape levels down here, kind of on the southern end of this slight risk at day 4, over 1,000 joules per kilogram. And you got Cape levels up here, over 1,000 joules per kilogram too, right here in Illinois, and then down here, and there's a little bit of something going on right in the middle. Okay, so you're going to have the energy in the atmosphere. And then it turns into more of a high shear, low cape event as we move a little bit into our Wednesday. So a little bit of energy in the atmosphere mixed in with the kinematics. It's going to spell a recipe for severe weather. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have yourselves a great Saturday.